Amen.
Amen.
Maurice, at the end, actually, if people want to see a Black referral list for all Black therapists, it's not everybody, but I have a list with because I'm a part of I'm one of the founders for Minority Therapists Cincinnati. Right. I don't know if you know about it, but okay, so we have a packet, but it's not updated. But what we have is who we have, and then we could just continue to send you updated versions.
Okay. Great.
Can I open my window before you start?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I didn't want to be like gone.
Our guest is gone. Oh my God.
It's over. It's a wrap.
Oh my God. Y'all gonna leave me alone? Oh, that's funny.
Everybody got pajama pants on today?
He got on jeans. Oh.
I got my little. I'm trying not to wear pajamas. I be like business.
Well,
comfy at the bottom.
I have on a collared shirt, and that's all I'm going to mention.
Oh man, Mo out here in boxes and a collared shirt.
No, not boxes, but but yeah. So welcome everyone. Welcome to the discussion. Your hosts, Gerard and myself. How you doing, Brother Lindsay?
I cannot complain. How about yourself, Mr. Stewart?
Oh man, I'm living the dream, man. This sure. This is a new reality for us, right?
100%.
So with us, the phone fell. With us, we have Courtney Carroll. She's a licensed professional counselor, and I'll let her tell a little more about herself.
Okay. I thought with some music gonna come on.
I know. Hey, it's
real show. I'm just kidding.
I was thinking about that.
Well, I'm Courtney Carroll, and I'm born and raised in Cincinnati. I'm gonna tell you what high school I went to because that's the golden question that everyone asks.
Coming.
I went to Withrow, graduated from Withrow University, and I got my bachelor's from Tennessee State in public health. I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta. I came back to Cincinnati and got my master's in counseling. I really came home because Cincinnati was so good to me, and I really wanted to dig my heels into our foundation and make sure that I poured back into our city first before I went anywhere else. So I have a background in inpatient psych and case management. I've done work in corrections. And now I did school counseling, but now I'm full-time private practice. My favorite color is yellow, and I don't know what else you want to know.
Nah, that's cool. It's a bright and bubbly color for sure. Yeah. Yellow, I can't really get with that. That's super bright. No, I think it's important. You and I talked briefly, and you told me where you grew up with. Do you mind sharing that?
I don't mind that. So I grew up, my parents were married, and then we grew up in East Mountain Hills for the first 2 years of my life. So if East Mountain Hills, maybe 90s, just kind of like middle class, depending on what area you are. And then my parents got divorced and we moved to Hawaiian Ferry. So I moved there when I was about 10 years old, and I lived there until I graduated. I went off to college. So it was I went to Hoffman, so that was like a good culture experience, but as far as like being in that environment was definitely a culture shock for me, but it is something that really shaped me and grew me for the work that I do with the community. And yeah, so I'm born in East Pine Hills, but really raised in Hawaiian Village. So.
How did you get into mental health?
How did I get into mental health? So I'm gonna give a little short story and then I worked for PSI in high school, which was postpartum sexual involvement. It was through a program through Children's Hospital that they no longer fund. So my freshman year, they taught us all these techniques. So me and some of my close friends, we did and other inner city CPS students, we got a stipend, and we went into elementary schools and junior highs and talked about postpartum sexual involvement. And my senior year, a girl that I guess taught when she was, I don't know if she was maybe in the 7th, I don't know what grade she was in. She came to school and she was like, Miss Courtney, oh my gosh, like it's Miss Courtney, but I'm a senior in high school. I'm like,
right.
So But what it did was it showed me that I had built that connection.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a little spark. And then fast forward maybe 7 years later, I worked in a correction facility for girls in Nashville. And I worked, if you know, working in those type of environments, turnover rate is high. People are quitting. So I was working 16 hours, like 5 days a week with really girls who had backgrounds. And so I was there all the time, and that really showed me that I was supposed to be a therapist and to be a counselor.
So at what point, you said you were working at a correctional facility in Nashville?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when did you go to school? Was this after you went to school or before you went to college?
During. So I've always been that person that was working full time and going to school full time, involved, dancing, performing, doing community service. So I've always been busy. So I don't know what I was doing. 22 years old, 22 years old with these teenagers, and I mean they. Even now, when I still talk to them and they like kind of reach back out after all these years, that I was really young, so I was still in undergrad as well. But at that time, I thought I was going to be a nurse, but I was like, no, I think I'm supposed to be a therapist.
That's dope. That's dope. So you are a LPC. So for the people who don't know what that means, can you like give us the background on what that stands for, and also what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Okay. So I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of Ohio, so which means I have a license. I had to take a test. I have to get recertified. I have to go and have all these levels of education to keep my license. I can continue to grow in my credentials to become an LPCC. Which is a licensed professional clinical counselor. So there's different tiers, and I promise you, I feel like if I explain them all, you'll be like, oh. But so you'll see like a LSW is a licensed social worker, which is also the same license, but some of our schooling is a little different. So what I personally do on a day-to-day is I see clients, I have a level, I diagnose them, I come up with a treatment plan, and we have sessions. So I'm not doing any medication. I am not doing any psychological testing. And I always do referrals for those. So I don't have my license yet or my credentialing yet to do some of the work that other licensed therapists get to do. So I'm working towards that. So we have trauma-based therapists. We have marriage and family therapists. There is so much. I probably should just like write everything out and give little descriptions, but every day I talk to clients, come up with a treatment plan, come up with a diagnosis, and we work through whatever they bring to the school.
What type of client, real quick, let me ask this real quick, Mo. What type of clients are you seeing like on a regular basis? Like what does that look like for you?
What do I attract, or just whom like could I see?
Why don't we start with like who you could see, and then we start with like what you track, like the clients that actually count, I guess, so to speak.
So who I could see, anyone.
Okay.
I could see anyone. Now, am I the best fit? That's the question, which I always, anytime if someone goes into therapy, you go through a whole field of information, conversation, and one of the things that I make sure I tell clients is that, hey, I may not be the best fit for you, and that's okay. Let's talk about it, and if you feel like you couldn't tell me, you could tell the person you made the appointment with, you could tell my supervisor, because at the end of the day, you have to advocate for your mental health. So anybody should come and see me. Now, if I'm the best fit, whether it's like someone with substance abuse would be someone I would have to immediately refer out because I don't have a license in that or a certification. So we want to make sure they get the help they need for that. Or if someone has a diagnosis that they may need someone who's more seasoned in the area, then yes. And then whom I attract a lot of women. I'm starting to attract couples and teenagers too. So that's
you said
teenagers.
Okay, I thought you said you were starting to attract couples.
Couples, married couples, yes.
Oh, you out here seeing you a marriage counselor on the low.
So I do
No,
not
I'm joking.
myself as
You
a
said
married
what?
couple. But do I see married couples? Yes.
Okay.
I see
What
couples not married too.
what does that look like, seeing married couples? Like, are they coming to you with their mental health issues? Like, or how does that work? Like, why would you be seeing married couples as a mental health counselor?
Well, counseling okay, ask your question again, because you're saying why would someone coming for marital issues? Why would someone come and see a therapist for marital issues?
Yeah, not a therapist. So when I'm thinking of counseling, right, and I'm thinking of like mental health issues, right, I'm thinking a couple wouldn't come see you at one time because they would want to take care of their mental health issues alone, right? So I would think like couples therapy is a little bit different from mental health therapy. You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, but there's a little misconception in that.
Educate us.
So let's talk about counseling. Let's talk about therapy.
Okay.
Which we just recently kind of had a conversation about at Black Coffee about the difference between the two. Counseling may seem a little different. When people use the word counseling, they think more of a collaborative, more, let's talk about something and situational. When you hear therapy, you think of diagnoses. You think of the actual, sitting in the chair, or when you see on TV, see somebody laying on the couch, or, it's a single thing. But ultimately, it's about behavior, it's about emotions, it's about connection, it's about all that together. So it's interchangeable. I could be called a counselor, or I could be called a therapist, depending on the day. I still am a therapist, but if you look at my license, it'll say a licensed professional counselor. So when couples come in, they get the opportunity to have someone who isn't biased, someone who can listen to them talk about some things, and maybe connect. If they're not seeing other therapists, can connect and kind of pull out some things that they may need to address separately or bring together, because one person is the client in a session. Whoever, insurance, whoever, whatever. So somebody is the client, but you take care of everybody as a whole. But that's a whole little story.
Hey, thank you so much for breaking that down, because again, I think that's as Gerard was kind of stating, I think it is a big misconception that people think a counselor and a therapist are these two different things, and when in fact they're as you stated, one and the same. So thank you for taking the time to break that down for us. And one of the reasons we decided to approach this topic because of COVID-19, right? Let's be honest. COVID-19 has drastically changed the way many of us operate, right? And there's some of us who like to go out and eat, go to restaurants, who like to go out bowling, who like to enjoy outside and mingle with people. Essentially, for our safety, we've been told to stay away, stay home, right? That could be tough on our mental. It's like, golly, I can only watch so much Netflix. I can only play so many video games, right? I can only talk to, the people living in my home for so long. I mean, we got video, FaceTime, we got all of that stuff. But, you want to see folks, right? And not that you can't see folks, but right, you got to practice that social distancing, right? And if you want to have our life has changed, right, at this point in time. So what are some, for people who this might affect more deeply, what are some strategies? I mean, Rod, like, before I go to you, Courtney, like, Rod, what are some things that you're doing to keep your mental sharp and things, seeing that you have to be in the house all day? Because I know for myself, I'm home all the time. It's like, I'm not really used to this. Thankfully for me, some of the things that I do, I'm going down to I got a lot of workout stuff in my basement, so I'm doing a lot of working out, and that helps me relieve a lot of stress and, anxiety. I mean, admittedly, this is I may experience a little bit of anxiety, because what is the future to hold, right? Am I going to be able to do any traveling this year? Am I going to be able to, are we going to have to social distance for the rest of the year, right? Because I can tell you one thing, I'm not injecting myself with no bleach. It's not happening.
You sick in the head, man. You sick in the head.
So, Rod, tell me a little bit. Like, what are you doing to
man, honestly, bro, I'm cool. I don't mind being in the house. you know, I got a kid, so 2 kids. So it's, for me, I'm chilling, bro. Like I read, I meditate, but I don't mind being in the house. I know Courtney was saying she's a extrovert, and I like to consider myself an introvert extrovert, right? So
Okay.
I could deal with people, but I can only take so much of it, right? You know what I'm saying? So this is giving me time to just recalibrate, align my chakras, you know, do all of that good stuff. So I'm cooling. I don't have no problem whatsoever not being around nobody. I'm cooling. I'm saving a lot of money right now. That's what I'm doing.
Gotcha.
But I know you wanted to go to Courtney. So what about you, Courtney? What are some strategies for you?
For yourself. Yeah, personally.
Okay, so at first, before COVID was actually, we had got, before they told us to go home and stay home, I was still seeing clients because I was still practicing social distancing until maybe until the day they were like, go home.
Which was March 13th, I believe.
Yep. So I was still seeing clients up until that point. So I kind of felt like I was cheating a little bit. Everybody was at home and I was still working. So I still had some, my life was still a little normal. But now being at home, I've really tried to take time to just work on myself personally when it comes to like faith, prayer, just really working on my own personal relationship and with God, and just really looking at my space and being like, okay, what suits me and what doesn't, whether it's a sock, whether it's some food, whether it's relationships, whether it's just bad habits. And I think what I wanted to do, I didn't want to miss this time to completely be by myself. And when will I ever get this time to just be like, because I am an extrovert, because I like to serve and I like to do and I like to be on the go. When will I ever get this time to just sit still and really take it in? So I made a choice because I know I have a lot of fake siblings and nieces and nephews and friends and I could be, like y'all stay over here, but I'm a road past, like I could make myself busy, right? Yeah. I made the decision to sit in this, and really experience what my clients are experiencing. And I really want to spending time outside has been great for me. Yeah. So, and I went and got me an Apple Watch so that way I can actually work out and stuff, but I'm not tech savvy. So I'm learning new things. So my watch keeps dinging and I'm like, how do I?
Right.
What type of workouts are you doing? Because I know Mo, man, I don't know if you've been following, but Mo been out here trying to look at you, bro. You flexing and you sick in the head, man. Mo been out here boxing, doing all type of workouts down in the basement. What I would ask is, if you don't have any equipment, what type of workouts are you recommending for people?
And to add on that really quickly, I'm sorry, and also things that can help. I mean, I think any workout, I won't say any workout, but many workouts, like for instance, the boxing, that helps relieve, stress or something that I might be dealing with. But not everybody has a boxing bag, right? So what are some things that people could do to, help relieve their minds?
With it just based off of just physical?
Yeah, physical things.
Running, definitely. I think that's very subjective. I think that's based off what you enjoy. I think that's what's your body type, your endurance, what works for you. Personally, I'm a dancer, so I like to dance, so I like to stretch and do yoga. Running for me is really important. Have
you participated in any of the TikTok dancing challenges?
I have.
Oh, I gotta check it out.
I haven't posted any of them though.
Well, you still holding out. Did you hit the groove? You heard the Hit the Groove challenge. You did that yet?
Mm-hmm. I did Savage. That's what I did.
Oh,
you did Savage.
I did Savage.
Okay.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, that song. I don't even know if I knew that song before.
I don't even think I know the rest of the song. I just know that one part. I don't think I knew it the whole time.
Right.
What music are you dancing to? So what's your dance music?
I like some good contemporary,
Okay.
some real modern, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right.
I was gonna go ahead.
as a true dancer, any music is really good for you, depending on what your mood is and what the level of expression is.
She talking about as a true dancer. Okay. True dancer.
I love it. And particularly like one of the things that I've been able to find joy in that's kind of taking me away is these versus challenges that they have been doing on Instagram. For instance, we recently had Babyface and Teddy Riley. I mean, that was really, it really took me away. I mean, I didn't feel like, I didn't think about COVID-19. I was just like, wow, this is pretty cool. Like, to take you back and hear some of these cuts, like, oh, Teddy Riley was involved with that. Oh, Babyface was involved with that. So that was great. That was great.
I think something interesting that's going on is I hope I'm saying this correctly, is the playing field is being leveled. Is that how you say it? As far as with music, artists that may have not been seen before are being seen now by big people. Or other mainstream artists, because people are home scrolling, and then they going down black holes and finding people that connected with people, and then now other generations are able to see other good music, and I'm like, who is Teddy Riley? And they're like, oh man, I know that sound. So I think that the playing field has been leveled in so many areas, and I think it's really good. I didn't mention this too. My goal is to start seeing entrepreneurs. Like, that's something I would love to create some type of specialty for in there, because we need it. I'm an entrepreneur myself, so you need some type of intentional support. So with that being said, now your business is kind of leveled out with some other businesses, because now everybody's kind of like in this state of so it's really, I think it's a bittersweet thing, because it's kind of stagnant, but at the same time you have a little more access to things you may not have, or people can actually see things they didn't get a chance to see because they're not so busy anymore. So.
That's a valid point. I know, so we talked about a couple of things. As far as you being an entrepreneur, what business, if you care to discuss, right, some of the business ventures, does it have to do with mental health, or is it something completely outside of that?
So I'm a part of Poppy's Therapeutic Corner, but I'm an independent contractor, and I've been an independent contractor for the past 2 years. So which means I'm fully employed to 99 myself. So I'm a part of the Poppy's brand, but ultimately I am my own walking business now. So that's it. And then I'm one of the co-founders for Minority Therapists of Cincinnati. So me and 3 other Black therapists here in Cincinnati have started this organization to try to be like the small hive of all Black practitioners and bring clinicians together, and so that it's more accessible and easy to find out who is who, and how we can share the podcast and the platform. So everybody's not just talking, the same people are talking. The same organizations are going to this event, or everybody, if they want to, is being able to be seen.
Okay.
What? Were you about to say something, Mo?
No, go ahead, Rod. I'll.
Okay. What's your clientele looking like? Do you have mostly Black patients? Is it a mixture? What's your clientele typically look like?
Predominantly Black, African, predominantly Black people. And I'm seeing, I do have some people that are white that I can see, but the majority of my clients are Black.
You said most of your clientele is women as well. What are some of the mental health illnesses that, or just some of the issues, right, that you're seeing with a lot of women, with a lot of Black women, recurring ones?
Some of the concerns or some of the stories, because I try to use the word issues or problems, or I try to use that term lightly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I try to tell my clients this, like, diagnosing is not my favorite part of my job. Right. If I could walk in and say, hey, let's talk about your life, and diagnosing is good. But I went to Germany and Austria and studied psychotherapy. Some of these modalities that we have are not built for Black people. And so it's big. But they still are important. They still are very helpful. But ultimately, Black trauma is totally different. Some of our experiences are very layered and different. So I try to be careful when I talk about diagnoses and issues, because ultimately, you know, we all have that, and illness.
Exactly.
That's the word that I want to say, and
Mhm.
illness, because then it's like when people hear the word illness, they're like, I'm sick, something's wrong. I'm like, you
Right.
know, so but these are just terms that, you know, clinically we use, and we say, okay, this is what's going on, this is how we feel. This, you know, we use it to create a treatment plan.
Exactly.
So
Mhm.
something that I see with Black women is exhaustion.
Mm.
Tired. If I could diagnose exhaustion, is one. Poor
Mhm.
being in poor relationships,
Mm.
exhaust them and pull from them. And I'm not just talking about romantic ones, just
Absolutely.
whether it's a job, whether it's children, whether it's, you know, relationships as a whole, lack of resources,
Mm.
Yeah.
and encouragement, and places where they feel as if they can process shame and guilt. I think those are things. Before I say a diagnosis, before I say an issue, I think those are the most present things.
So
You're
what
tired.
are what's some of the advice? Like, what do those conversations look like for a Black woman who may come in with the concern that she's sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? We hear that. So has a poor relationship, lacks encouragement, maybe a single mother. How are you listening to that? How are you helping her process all of these things that she's going through?
So that's a layered. So it's subjective.
Absolutely, right?
So it's
Yeah.
subjective. And then let
Yeah.
me say this too: not every Black woman that comes into my office has this story or this
For
narrative.
sure.
Some of them don't. Some of them have amazing support systems. Some women are not tired. Some women are just riding up or going up the corporate ladder and not sure how to navigate that stress. Or some people are new mothers and they're nervous and they just want to be able to talk about it. Or some women are dealing with postpartum depression and they were told that, oh, this is just something that you're supposed to have. This is something that happens when you're pregnant, you have a baby, you get sad, and you'll be okay. And so it's just very subjective. But for me as a therapist, my client comes into my session, my goal is to say, hey, you know, I'm in this for the long run, which means whether it's 6 months, 1 month, 1 year, mental health maintenance. It's not for the long run as far as like forever, but we don't have to rush the process of conversation.
Right.
I want to offer to clients a space to take their time to talk about things and be heard, and also a space where they don't have to necessarily have it all together.
Certainly.
And yeah.
No, great point. And you know, one thing you talked about, you know, some of the challenges of being, you know, Black, right? There's a book I read. It's called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. Are you familiar with that book by author? I'm gonna find the book. I got it right here.
I can't say that I feel like the context clue of what you're saying, I understand, but can I say I know what that book is?
Okay, so post-traumatic slave syndrome. Dr. Joy DeGroy, right? She talks about how African Americans, because of slavery, that we suffer, you know, like a PTSD kind of thing just because of that. We're essentially slavery's children, right? And when people were released from slavery, you know, you still had the Black Code, you had Jim Crow. Eventually, you had all of these different things, right? And there were not any therapists, there were not any, you know, social workers, there were not any people there to, you know, help us deal with those things. So you have our ancestors who never saw a therapist, right? You have their children, you know, you have us, you know, some of our parents and things of that nature, who it's really just a system that was never like for us, like as you mentioned earlier. And we're go ahead.
I was gonna mention, I think that's a misconception too.
Okay.
I do think that part of our heritage, and I'm not an African scholar at all, but I do believe that wise counsel has something that has been beyond our years, and generationally has been passed down, that there was, you know, wise counsel within families and wise counsel amongst people who were able to talk and be able to process that.
Certainly.
Now, I'm sure, I'm wondering in the translation or transition of our people that maybe that concept has been lost. But I think wise counsel is something even biblically and a long time ago that we have been doing as Black people, and having that person or that elder or someone who was a counselor, but maybe not a licensed one, or maybe that wasn't there. They were the person people went to. So I just sometimes want to make that exception that it is something that we have had a part of us, and I think we need to reconnect with. But yeah, so with that being said, I think that's something too that I'm like, maybe I need to do some research, because I'm a spiritual person, and I believe that if there's something wise counsel, I don't think that was ever not a part of us. I think this is that it got lost in translation, and now generationally we're trying to bring it back and do something.
Certainly, I appreciate you bringing that up. I think that's important and great to mention. You know, but what she kind of goes through in the book is, you know, some of the different things that slaves had to deal with. You know, incest, rape, you know, being beaten, you know, for not following rules, right? And that kind of has a disparate impact on your psyche, right? And then, you know, at some point, many of these slaves were released, right? And then they had to go try to figure things out on their own. Many of them didn't know how to read. Many of them didn't get to interact with other people outside of, you know, people that they worked with, things like that. So she kind of talks about that and how that has the impact today, and why, you know, some of the ills of our society are exacerbated within the African American community. You know, I think mental health. I mean, I think, of course, many of us go through mental health, but when you add poverty, you add some of these other layers on top of it, it really exacerbates things. You know, we had a conversation about what was it, a couple of weeks ago? We had a conversation about the block parties that they had, right? And the guy, you know, getting on the stream and, you know, essentially saying, forget the coronavirus. And one of the questions that me and Gerard asked, like, you know, why did he do that, right? Why was he so pronounced in wanting to say that? Why were so many people out there, despite the governor's orders and different things like that? Not suggesting that it's because he has a mental health issue, but I do recognize that, you know, many of the systems and things that are set up has kind of made us feel kind of like not trustworthy of leadership
institutions.
or institutions, right? The structure, right? So I mean, you any thoughts about that? About what was your thoughts when you first, you know, got that on the news?
Well, when I first watched it, of course, I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, like, what are they doing?
Right.
But at the same time, I wasn't. I won't say I was completely disturbed by it. Now, of course, I wish that, you know, different choices would have been made.
Of course.
But I think when it comes to sickness, when it comes to sickness and it comes to systemic things, I think that we have always dealt with something, I think, as a community. And so sickness is not something that we have not dealt with, you know. Lack isn't something we've dealt with. So when people are like, oh, we don't have this resources, or we're going to run out of this, that's something that, you know, that's not something that necessarily scares us. Or, you know, like the common joke is everybody's going out and buying bleach. And we're like, that's a household item. Like, why don't you have that? Like, you just wipe yourself down with bleach anyway. But so for us, it's like sickness is not something we're not afraid of. I'm not saying that let me not say that all of us. Some of us are not. Some of us are, and some of us understand the concept. And some of us, I think that's more of the thing. It just isn't something that we kind of pick and choose maybe possibly what we take serious and what we don't. And I don't want to say we, but maybe that is something, because I don't want to be like, okay, this is what we do, because that's not fair. Yeah. But ultimately, sickness, lack, and some of those things have been a part of the narrative. And so when we hear some of those things, you're just like, okay, this is what we need to do to make sure we do this so we can be good, so you cool, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, and some of us like I can't practice social distancing. Me and my sister and my cousin, we all stay together with our kids. And so it's common. So it may not be typical for someone to be like, I can't, like, how can I do that? You know, my job, I'm an essential worker. I have to work. So it's like, come what may. And I'm not saying that's what, you know, that young man was thinking or anything, but I'm wondering if that was some of the kind of like.
Yeah. So Rod, what do you think? What did you think about it?
Nah, yo, it's super interesting, right? So when I seen it, I was taken aback by it, right? I'm like, yo, what are we doing, right? What are we doing? That was my initial reaction, right? And because I think it's beyond thinking about us, right? It's thinking about your grandmother. Like you said, you might live with your niece, your grandmother, and all of these people. So it's people who are more susceptible to catching it, right? Or who may be high risk. But I think what's funny is, and I have to recognize this within myself, and I had a conversation with my brother who is reckless. Like, so me and him, we kind of go back and forth, right? And who I could see being out there. And
Rod, really quickly,
yeah.
Can you describe, what do you mean reckless? How is he reckless? What do you mean by that?
Oh man, let me get comfortable. So I just had a conversation. When I say reckless, he in the streets, right? He does things, right? Like he's just in the streets, you know what I'm saying? So I'll just leave that open to interpretation, right? And him and I were having a conversation, and we were just talking about how it's people out here who live in their lives on a regular basis, knowing that they might die, right? Carrying guns, in shootouts, things of that nature, knowing that they might die. I think an interesting point that Courtney made is that we've been without lack, right? We've been without these certain things. And I think sometimes, I know for me, I have to check myself, right? I can't always say that my mindset where it is now was always where it is now, to where I wouldn't have been. Like, if I was 21 or 19 and I'm living in these areas, can I say that I wouldn't have been outside when I see everybody outside, right? I can't necessarily say that.
Hello?
I think it's video froze.
I think that, am I here?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I think what's important is what we're trying to do, right, Mo? Is
yeah, he keeps freezing.
Yeah.
Got something to say.
Right, of course, right within the thick of it, right?
Something you need to say, but here
come on, Zoom.
Come on, Gerard. Yeah. Believe me, Gerard, you got it.
Yeah, come on. But anywho, go ahead. What you were gonna say?
I was gonna say, I think it's how he was.
But it's another thing. I'm sorry. Could you hear me?
Yeah, we can try to finish out what you was gonna say. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'm just saying that at the end of the day, man, I think I understand, right? I understand that want to be, because it's still a sense of community, right? The fuck coronavirus, being outside, right? Having that block party, that's still a sense of community, which is important, right? I just think also having that education piece, right? Where we can be comfortable enough to say, yo, all right, I get everything we're trying to do, but at the same time, like, this shit really can impact our community, because I think sometimes we don't know what will really impact our community, and we are the most vulnerable. And I think that's something that I just want, considering healthcare, lack of healthcare access. I think that's just something that I want people to be aware of. So
I have a question. Do you think, because I'm like a direct person. I think calling someone is cool. I think talking to someone is cool, but like being in their presence and letting them know is important. So
100%.
It is something that if people hit the pavement and went into these communities in a secure manner and explain to them like, hey, y'all, let me offer you this information. Do you all think that is something that would be beneficial to the community?
I think that's the only thing that would be beneficial. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of times, Mo and I have had this conversation before as well, right? Whereas people don't want help from people outside of their community. It's like you looking down on me. You don't really know what I go through, right? You're not out here. You don't know you don't even know what the inside of my house looks like, right? So I think actually hitting the pavement, right, getting your hands dirty, honestly, I think the type of work that needs to be done in order to uplift communities, right, and to get them the resources is revolutionary. Whereas you have to risk your health, your safety, or whatever, or getting cussed out, right? Getting into physical, whatever it takes to go to someone and say, give me, or let me show you a different way. Because I think one thing we can't do is go into our people's lives and tell them how to live without knowing their situation, right?
Exactly.
So I do agree with you that that's the biggest thing. One thing that I find interesting from a mental health perspective, just for lack of better words, right, is the I'm ready to die today, right? Where people feel like, I have to floor, where I can only think about what's in front of me. I can't think 2 or 3 years down the line, because I got to worry about paying these bills. I got to worry about making sure my kids are fed and making sure they have clothes on their back. With what's going on with COVID-19 and essential workers, right, being displaced and all of that, how do you recommend, from a mental standpoint, people deal with what's going on with them now, right?
Yeah. And to add on that really quickly before you go, just a great question. There's been massive layoffs, right? The city of Cincinnati just had furloughed 1,700 people. I know the county furloughed a whole bunch of people. Not as many, I believe. You look at some of these nonprofits who are struggling, right? Because they depend on fundraising and funds from consumers and things of that nature. Yeah, what are some, I just got laid off, right? I just got laid off. You're trying to contact the unemployment office. You can't get in contact with them. How do you process that? So for me, I'm blessed. Rod, I know you're blessed that, you're able to work and not affect you as hard, but there's a lot of people that it is affecting, particularly in our marginalized communities. So how do you begin that conversation? How do you process? I can imagine that's difficult, right?
Mm-hmm. So which question you want to answer? Me to answer first? The one.
Whichever.
I'll answer yours first, Maurice. You're very sensitive. As a therapist, I have to be very sensitive. Poppies, we do offer case management, and it's not your regular agency type of case management. We have an amazing case manager who is, I sat down with her and another young lady and talked about anxiety that can bring with making a business plan. But then she can work through with the young lady about the business plan and it still be clinically appropriate for her scope of practice. But she's helping her with resources, with finding things, so offering the resources that we technically have, not overstepping my boundaries as a therapist, because I do, of course, I'm like, you want me to bring, in my heart, I want to be like, girl, you do something like, want me to bring some canned goods? Like, you want me to, like, what your baby need? Like, ultimately, that is something that I would want to do. But as a professional, I have to say, okay, this is what can I do to support and to work through this process. And then if there's anything community-based that I can connect them to as well. I think as a therapist, my job is to be present with them in what they're experiencing. And to help them work through certain things. Now, but of course, I'm not going to push a treatment plan in their face like, okay, so today we say we were going to talk about what happened when you were pregnant, and then this is like, no. Right now it's crisis. So everything that we talk about right now, if it's COVID, we talk about COVID every session. If that's what my client wants to talk about, that's what we're going to talk about. Now,
are you talking about the COVID crisis a lot in sessions?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, okay.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes we do talk about it. Sometimes we address it. And sometimes we talk about, if I see in a social worker, their fears and concerns. And so, yes. And back to your question, Gerard, there's something called the Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
I love that.
So if you are pushing someone to think about their 5-year plan or 2-year plan and they don't have food to eat, or they don't have a comfortable place to sleep, or they don't have the resources that they need to survive, like, how dare we tell them to think about the bigger picture? Now, if that sometimes you have clients who are like, hey, They have the day-to-day face in their life, but you know what? I'm opening up a hair salon, and and this is what it's gonna look like, and we're gonna do this perfect. And that some people are like that. I've been like that, you know, where I'm like, I don't know where it's gonna come from, but I'm gonna write this plan out and I'm gonna do this. But it takes a level of internal self-motivation, some type of, it takes a level of strength that you have to have. So I think it's important for people to feel like they have something inside of them and that they have something that's purposeful, and let them know, okay, that thing is deposited in you already. Let's put it in a healthy place so that we can take it to the next level, so you can start discussing what that thing is. And then we can start talking about what that business looks like. And then we can talk about how much money you want to make. And then, like, because sometimes it's just so overwhelming and so much. And especially, my bad, go ahead.
So I think that's important. You're good. I think that's important, right? You mentioned Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I know some people may not be familiar with it. I just brought it up because I knew it. And the bottom need, right, is physical, right, which is your need for air, water, rest, and health. Security will be the next one. Need for safety, shelter, stability. Social being the third one. The need for being loved, belonging, ego being the fourth, the need for self-esteem, power, recognition, and prestige, self-actualization being at the top of the pyramid. I encourage a lot of people to go look that up because I do think it adds a sense of clarity, right, to where you should be focused on. So I do appreciate that for sure.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, I think for me, Courtney, what I'm trying to ask is, how do you deal with the fact that there's this going on so you can't see what's going on down the road, but then sometimes the decisions that you make right here will impact how you are down the road? How do you help people to see and or understand that?
Well, something I say to my clients is that I think therapy is like a puzzle. The pieces are all together, all scattered. It's not my job to tell you which piece to pick up.
Yeah.
This is you pick up a piece and we discuss where that piece goes and what the picture will look like. Now you may be like, nah, this doesn't match. And ultimately it's your choice. Now clinically, I will offer, so one thing we don't do is we're not supposed to do is offer advice. We're supposed to have a collaborative approach of clinical experience and also connect it with realistic life, you know, and also, and even like talking to somebody, it's not my job to tell you what to do.
Right.
It's not my job to tell you what decision you should make. Now I can say, hey, it sounds like from what you spoke to me, from what we've talked about, this sounds similar to something that happened a few weeks ago. It seems to me, or it sounds like to me, it sounds like a cycle. Have you ever thought about what does the word cycle mean to you? How many cycles have you experienced in your life? And so if a client is constantly bumping and touching it, and so it's not my job to be like, why you keep doing that?
It's helping them to understand it and to get to see it.
Understanding of a pattern of behavior.
Right.
So for instance, if you, trying to think of a situation. If you have been so rejected before all your life, and anytime someone offers you something, you know, and you're like, no, I'm good, I'm cool, I'm good, that's that thing right there. That I'm good.
Is that called, so I was looking up this term called imposter syndrome. I think that's a little different because it's
imposter. So imposter, yeah, that's a little different. So what I'm speaking on is, I'm just giving an example of what could be the block.
Right, gotcha.
And what it sounds like, Gerard, you're kind of talking about something like a situational or a decision-making thing. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something that's kind of keeping you from actually making concise choices or like good choices. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, choices that can lead to productive results down, you know what I'm saying? Choices that won't impact you down the line. Yes.
Okay, so give me an example instead of me trying to make one. Give me an example of
Nah, for sure. All right, let's say it like this, right? You are out here and you may be doing something illegal, right? So it could be you are stealing food. It could be you are robbing people. It could be a number of things. And this is all you've ever known, right?
Yeah.
And while it's right now, it's helping the need, right? To whether it's pay rent, whether it's put food on the table, it could have a long lasting impact, right? So how do you get out of seeing just what's directly in front of you, the immediate, right? Delayed gratification, so to speak. How do you talk to some? Go ahead.
So a client came into my office and they sold drugs to take care of their family.
Yeah.
One, there's definitely there's a need. It's to take care of their family.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about your family.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get to know who's your family, who they are, who are you taking care of, who are you feeding, building relationship with me. So my initial thing was to be like, move this block out the way, stop selling drugs. I want to know who you're serving, why you're so, why you desire to serve them, what that looks like for you, what are some of those ways for serving them, and making sure that they need, and maybe talk about. Okay, so I'm just thinking out loud what I would think, but like maybe talking to them about how many times have they heard no.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because if someone has heard no and has so much rejection, and then you know what, I'm just gonna get it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
They ain't gonna tell me no. I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna have to do it like this. So how many times have you heard no? And have those no's been specific no's? Have they been job no's? Have they been this? So to understand it, it isn't my job to move the block. Maybe just tips and pieces of the why, and kind of pull things out like a Jenga, like Jenga, like just pulling stuff out. Because ultimately, what if we pull one piece out that's like, hey, what if you got to do a bid and you pull that out, and then
everything collapses.
Pull out is where your reality is you're in jail. And who's gonna feed them then? And so, you know, like it's not my job to tell them to stop. It's my job to say why. Like where did we start?
And the likelihood is that, you know, there's not anyone in their lives that's providing that kind of information for them. You know what I mean? To let them know, hey, you know, these are the risks here. You know, I want you to consider the different impacts of this. You know, ultimately you're making a decision, but here's some things to consider, right?
I think real quick, let me chime in, and I think the thing with that is too, Mo, is that they understand the risk, right? It's like, but what's the alternative, right? When society has you set up, let's say you're a felon, right? One of my closest friends, I can't be a firefighter, which is like the thing that he may want to do, right? All of these barriers. I'm not even good with technology at this point, you know? So I think it's what's my alternative? And I think providing them and exposing them to resources is something that they might not be privy to, where you say like
exactly, and that's right, exactly, and that's why you have those things. Go ahead, Courtney. I'm sorry.
What I was gonna say is, if we're talking about the black men, and we're talking about personally, I have a brother, you know, that has been in and out of jail, and at this point in time in his life, you know, unfortunately, so resources are not as there's not a lot that he feels. But I think it takes a very strong leadership to say, hey, let me show you, or come to your level, not change you, but let me show you the access where it doesn't, one, show your ego and integrity, and doesn't take that away from you, that pride from you, to be a provider, to be all these things. Because sometimes it's just hard to go and say, I need help, and I don't know what I'm doing, and this is my past, this is what happened. And so it takes some empathy from other people who are true leaders to go in and say, hey, how can I personally walk with you, not put you on and then leave you out there, you know, like how can I continue to build a relationship with you, to check in with you, get you what you need. But I think a lot of that is breaking down those walls of I got it. I'm good. I don't need it. I'm cool. I'm gonna get it out. I'm saying get it out the mud. But you know,
Nah, absolutely.
I think that's a part of it. Is that pride, maybe?
Yeah.
And then talking, having somebody, and I think it's sometimes talking to a woman is good because then it's like, I can help you, I can do this, and it's cool. But to have a brother or to have another strong leadership role, like, okay, how can I guide you and be with you through it and have patience and some long suffering? I think that could be something to help Black men who have been incarcerated, who need that support of starting over and building their confidence up, that they're awesome, there are opportunities. You know, they may not look like $1 million ones right now, but there is something inside of you to start something somewhere.
Exactly.
And that's just me. Maybe that's the yellow butterfly fairy tale of me.
Well, no, and I agree with that. I mean, I have family members who are incarcerated for long periods of time, who are now working and they're doing pretty well for themselves and taking care of their family. So I do appreciate you mentioning that. We do have 5 more minutes. So Courtney, I know before the call we spoke about you having a list of therapists that you wanted to share, and you know we can get that shared out to people who may be listening.
I have a referral. I'm sorry, I didn't cut you off.
No, that's finished.
Minority Therapists of Cincinnati is in our beginning stages. It's myself, Talisha Dorsey, Raina Smith, and Jennifer Lynch. We just did our nonprofit stuff, and now we're working on 501c3 information and trying to get all that together.
And you're gonna need board members, right?
Oh yeah. Look, I'm a great child.
Right.
So we're at the very, very beginning stages. We just felt like it was a need to try to bring all of us together because we were like, oh, you're a therapist, oh, you're a therapist. Like, so let's bring us together. Let's figure out how we can support each other, love on each other, and then offer the community what they deserve. Mm-hmm. So I want to send you a referral list of Black therapists. It hasn't been completely updated. We want to continue to update it, so it may be a new list coming out.
Of course.
And as soon as we get more and more therapists and get everybody written down and get all their information. So if someone is looking for a therapist, if someone's looking for help, they can always go to Psychology Today, and the list is I'm going to email it to you, and then if they ask, then you can email it to them.
Certainly. Thank you, Courtney. You said Psychology Today. What's Psychology Today?
Okay.
I know what it is.
Psychology Today is a beast. Okay, guys, it's a beast. I was on there, and I'm a therapist. I'm like, what? Psychology Today is a tool that people can use to find a therapist. I want to just kind of cut off the fact that you can, if you want to see a man, see a man. If you want to see a woman, see a woman. Whatever you choose, whoever you choose to see, you can choose. Psychology Today is just a resource people can use to find a therapist. You go in there, type in Cincinnati, Ohio, Black, and they can give you a list. Not everybody is on Psychology Today because it is subscription.
Gotcha. Okay. Any last thoughts or anything, Rod, you want to say before we?
Man, this was awesome. Courtney, I just want to thank you for coming out, educating the people, educating us as well, right? Just on the differences between therapy, between counseling, different strategies that we can use to approach people who are in different spaces, right? To meet them where they're at. So this was awesome. Hopefully we can have you back in the future. Minority Therapist in Cincinnati. I can't wait till it takes off. And just thank you for coming out, Mo. Appreciate you as always, brother.
Okay, but one last thing.
Yes, sir.
I want to mention, this is about next week. So next week, we're going to have Jenny Berg from the Leadership Council of Nonprofits to talk about the challenges that many of the nonprofits are experiencing amid the COVID-19 pandemic. You know, in particular, as you know, many of the nonprofits serve a majority of marginalized people. Many of those marginalized people are people of color, under-resourced people, so on and so forth. So we're going to talk about how the nonprofit sector is dealing with this, because if the nonprofit sector is suffering, that means the services that poor people, that marginalized people are getting are suffering as well. So I do want to I'm going to, you'll see something going out about that. Courtney, thank you so much. I think this was a great educational, echoing what Gerard said, this is a great tool to expose people to some of the things that they didn't know, some of the myths about therapy, counseling. I think you did an amazing job of clearing some of that up and giving us a tidbit, because some of us, right, you know, I'm not a licensed counselor, but I think you can give me some insight on things that I can, conversations that I might be able to have with people who may be seeming like they're dealing with things, you know. So thank you so much. And is there any last final thing you want to mention, ma'am?
Just that, you know, y'all, we're not perfect, and that's perfect. We have room to grow. Be kind to yourself. Check in with yourself. How you eating? How you sleeping? How are you exercising? How are you playing and having fun? And how are you praying and meditating? Check in with yourself before you start to say that you have this issue, all these things going on. If you need someone, please just get help. Talk to someone. Reach out. Therapy is for everybody. It's not just for the professional. And because everything could be fine. You could be happy and you just want to talk to somebody. So, yeah, and just y'all special. Y'all send the light and love to all y'all.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. This will be uploaded on YouTube and shared on our pages. So thank you. Reach out to us. I'll have contact information. I'll also provide some other information if you would like to reach out to the other folks. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, you all have a great day. Peace.
All right.